I asked you, my Bumblebee community, to send me through your witchy and tarot questions for me to answer. So get a fabulous cup of tea or coffee, pull up a chair, and let's dive on in. Hi, I'm Ethony. I am a tarot professional, witch and high priestess. I have been practicing for 25 years, and let's jump into the questions. Sharon asked what started me on my spiritual path. My spiritual path started quite young. I was always a very interesting child. I had very vivid dreams. I had recurring nightmares. I could always feel spirit. I was very empathic. And thankfully, I had parents who sent me to learn meditation and gave me crystals and really fostered a healthy understanding of self-esteem and energetic work. I was very much set on my path from a young age without it being anywhere or anything to do with kind of dogma or religion. Neither of my parents were particularly severely religious. So I went to church. I went and got christened when I was about 10. I was in the church for a little while and then I left the church. It just didn't fit me. I had too many questions and not enough answers, and it was very rigid. And so I left the church, and then I started to explore different things on my own, and I'd always been really fascinated by magic and witches and anything mystical. And I found a book, The Learned Arts of Witches and Wizards, while I was doing research for a high school paper, and that was it. It was the first book that really sort of explained witchcraft to me in a way that wasn't evil. It was nature-based, it was empowering, and since then it has basically been my life. So I think a thirst for knowledge, understanding, being very open, and having very understanding parents set me on my path. Moon Dust Essence Tarot asks, what are my favorite tarot spreads? And I say any tarot spread that works. I actually really like a good all-round spread. I have one that's called my 5-card spread. So it's the center card of what is the situation, the challenge, the past, the present, the known and unknown. I have that over on my blog, but any spread that works is good. I actually create new tarot spreads for every one of my clients. So I want to make sure I'm answering their queries with a custom tarot spread. I love looking at other people's tarot spreads in their guidebooks, and I have a number of tarot spread books at home as well, but it's really just whatever kind of feels right, but I don't really like the Celtic cross. Michelle asks how to set up an altar when you have a limited amount of space, and what are your must-haves. I talk a little bit about limited space or travel altars in my travel and witchcraft video, but I would highly recommend getting a pretty box from like a dollar store. You can even use a shoe box or an old trunk, and having that as your witchy space, especially if you are worried about small children or whatever getting into your altar space, or if you have a partner or roommates who are not really into your spiritual stuff. When it comes to what are the essentials, that's a very difficult question to answer because it will really depend on your own personal practice. My essentials would include my goddess statue, which is the statue of Athena. It would also include my athame, which I've had since I was about 18 years old and has been absolutely everywhere with me. And also my tarot deck. So one of the ones that's on my altar at the moment is the Druidcraft Tarot. Everything else, including goddess and god stones, candles, representations of the different elements, that's all changeable and interchangeable, but those 3 things would pretty much be on every single altar I have. And then I would also have a dedication candle where I would light that for when I'm doing my communion. But really, that's just 4 simple things. Carrie asked, what is my favorite interpretation of the Devil card and what deck is it from? And it has got to be the Devil from the Lightseers Tarot. Hubba, 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 so hot, so fun. Ugh, yeah, sorry about it. I love this Devil card because it really does, for me, represent the higher energy of the Devil. I have got no problem with Baphomet being on the Devil cards. I love Pamela Collins-Smith's interpretation of the Devil. I've got no problem with it. I just really love Chrisanne Donnelly's interpretation of the Devil. We also have to take a moment to drool over her Lover's card as well. So I really adore the Lightseers Tarot, but that is definitely my favorite Devil. Michaela asked, how do you get in touch with your spirit guides? Spirit guides are likely to communicate with you through your strongest clair. So those are those psychic abilities that you have that you are able to commune with spirit with. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairognisance. There's another one. The clairs, look them up. So if you have a strong clairvoyance sort of tendency, that is one way that your spirit guides are going to likely communicate with you. So clear vision, clear seeing, clear hearing, clear knowing kind of things. So I have a course, Spirit Guides and Tarot, where I take you through a meditation of how to meet your spirit guides. And it was one of the ways that I learned through my psychic development and professional development that I actually did as well. But really it's about opening the space to understand and commune with your spirit guides. I know that some people worry about whether it's a spirit guide or something a little more nefarious, but really setting the intention that you're going to be connecting with your spirit guide. And there are ways you can test your spirit guide to make sure it's the one that you're meant to be working with. And repetition is really important too. Meeting the same guide over and over again and really building that relationship, you'll know that you are communing with the same one. So meditation is important, and also flexing your clair muscles and then having a very fixed and clear intention. That tarot witch asked, what do you do when you start to freak out in the middle of a tarot reading? That's not exactly what she said, but what advice do you have when you start to feel self-conscious and anxious in the middle of a tarot reading? So what I do is I remember that it's not about me. So what I do is I remember it's about the other person. It's about being of service to somebody else. So I put the emphasis and the intention back onto being of service to my querent and my client, and I put the focus back there. So I take it out from an internal thing and put it back out into the fact that it is not about me at all, and it is about the other person. By shifting that paradigm, it really does help put the reading back on track. Love Recycled asked me what my can't live without decks are. Now that is a really difficult question to answer because I have so many decks. So I have chosen the decks that I have done literally thousands of readings with and that have a lot of memory attached to it for me. This deck here is the Spiral Tarot, and it is housed in this hand-dyed silk from a friend of mine in Australia. You can see it's been worn quite a lot and it's black, and this deck has read thousands of people. I mean, like, she's a bit bowed over the years. And this is the Spiral Tarot. This was a deck that I got when I was learning how to read officially, I guess professionally, when I was doing my tarot courses with my first real tarot teacher, and I fell in love with this deck. I have got such good memories with this deck that it is absolutely a can't live without. The second deck is the Druidcraft Tarot, and this should be no surprise to anybody. This deck has been on my altar for a number of years. I trimmed this deck terribly, but I trimmed it. I edged it and I've used it so much, the edging has actually come off. What can I say? I'm just in love with this deck. Again, another deck that I've done thousands of readings with. I won this deck at a raffle with my friend's opening. She had an opening for a shop and I won this deck and I just absolutely love it. The next deck is my Morgan Greer, another one of my workhorse decks. Now this deck specifically, I got secondhand on eBay. I purchased this deck, I cleansed it, I blessed it, I did all the things you do when you get a secondhand deck, and I did, again, thousands of readings with this bad boy. This is such a beautiful deck. Again, like as you can see, the backs and the edges are very worn. She's very loved. But there is something about holding a deck that you've done that many readings with and you have that many memories with that is quite special. And I've retired. This deck it's like semi-retire them. So I pop them away and I don't necessarily use them all the time. I definitely switch out my decks quite a bit, but this is another one of my decks I can't live without. And my fourth absolutely cannot live without deck is my Aurosoma Tarot deck. Now I trained and got qualified, certified, whatever it is, certified as a Aurosoma consultant way back in like 2006. That sounds about right. It was a long time ago. I have the certificates anyway. And at that time, I actually had an agreement with Aurosoma to do the bottle back decks. Now this is out of print. I know everyone gets frothy at me for like putting decks up that are out of print, but this is a question that I'm allowed to answer. This is out of print because of the bottle backs. There was rumors that Mike Hall, I think is the guy who is in charge of Orosoma now, is going to be redoing this deck, but without the bottle backs and not with Pamela, which I think is a huge mistake. But you can't get the bottle backs anymore. I sold all of my bottles. I had my Orosoma bottles when I moved to Canada. And I like the fact that I can still use this as an Orosoma practicing companion as well. And it has a tarot on the other side. This has got like 115 or 17 cards, so it's huge. You can still get the deck, I believe, from Pamela Matthews, but they don't have the bottle backs, and I'm not sure how many she's got left, but I adore this deck. This deck can be pried out of my dead hands. And again, you can see from the box that it's just been banged the heck up. I have done, this never leaves the box because A, it's too big, like the cards don't even really fit into it anymore, but I just protect it in this box and it sits right next to my workspace. La La Love Song asked about connecting and communing with ancestors. This person feels them in their practices and their magic and their readings, but really not sure about how to formally welcome them. That's my answer. Formally welcome them in. Before your readings, before your rituals, when you're calling in your quarters, you're casting your circle, you're doing your watchtowers, all that kind of stuff. When you're calling in the element of spirit, call in your spirit guides and your ancestors. If you're doing this via formal invitation in a sacred space, you're going to be making sure you're getting the right spirit guides and the right ancestors coming in for your reading. Another way to really respect and work with your ancestors is through sacred days like the Day of the Dead. On special days like their birthdays, you can commemorate those, but really formally welcoming in your ancestors is enough. Emily asked me about my personal book of shadows, how I make it, what do I put in it, etc. Now, I do have an entire video on my very first book of shadows. I have a full blog post, what to put in your book of shadows. I have a whole guide. So make sure you check out that video. There'll be a linky for you to click on to go watch it after. But basically your book of shadows can be absolutely anything. I have got bound journals. I have got scrapbooking albums that I can like expand and take things out. I have a book of shadows that is a Google Drive. I have journals. I have all sorts of wonderful little books. This is one of my books of shadows, and what I love about this is it's leather bound. I got this, oh my gosh, more years ago than I can remember. I think I was in my teens. Don't ask me where I got it from. But you can actually look on Etsy and on Amazon. And what's really great, like this is from 2011, so it was a while ago. So what you can do is actually pull out the journal inserts and put another one in there. So this book has got notes, it's got readings. I can show you a couple of things that are in here. So it's got daily affirmations. I've got a stack of notes in here. I went to like an Aleister Crowley exhibition and there was a lecture by one of my very good friends who was doing a lecture there. It's got tarot cards in it from readings that I've had at conferences. This one's got like a shopping list. There's a shopping list there, it's true. It's got a ton of stuff in there. And then once that is full, I can change it over. So basically make your book of shadows work for you. Linaria33 asked, what inspired me to create my own tarot deck and what was the hardest part of the process? I can't help but create. I can't help but write. I'm always coming up with ideas. It's always been something that's been a part of my whole life. I've got journals and sketchbooks and all sorts of stuff ever since I was a child. So creation comes quite easy for me. I'm definitely a communicator. So that is not really anything that's sort of difficult. But what I've found to be inspiring for creating my own decks is putting my interpretation or vision behind it. With, say, for example, the Modern Love Tarot, I wanted there to be a deck that was focused completely on love because a lot of people come to the tarot for love that was inclusive and modern and had all of these beautiful facets of love shown in a way where most people can pick up the deck and find someone like them inside it. And it was really going to help people read cards for their queerance and for themselves because love is tricky. When it came to the Bad Bitches Tarot, that was another thing that was inspired from the perspective of the kind of readings that I do for my friends. Pretty sassy, and I wanted it to be a voice of like, this is exactly how I would talk to my friends. It was all feminine because there's so much masculine imagery in traditional tarot decks. I wanted to flip that and make it all feminine. And I love fashion, and it was just melding those things together to make it something that really spoke to all of my aesthetics and also the way that I read tarot for my friends. So all of it has come from a really personal place. Even the Awakened Soul Oracle, through doing thousands of readings over the years, all these messages that were in the deck would come up over and over and over again. Yes, in different situations, and yes, for different people and different little nuances, but they were still these themes. So I wanted to create something that had these themes so that everyone could get the messages from myself and spirit, because a lot of the times I feel as though I'm channeling, and really use it to help themselves grow. So the trickiest part is production. Production is a nightmare. Production is one of the 7 rings of Hades, and I hate it. So yeah, have fun if you're doing that. Andrea asked about my views on spiritual bypassing. She said that she had backed away from her practices in the craft because she was worried that she was using it to spiritually bypass. The interesting thing about spiritual bypassing, which is when you use spirituality to basically love and light a situation out of existence. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to deal with that hard thing because I'm too spiritual, or that's too dark, or that feels too icky. I'm not going to go anywhere near that. And you bypass over it. And that can really come from a lot of practices for sure. But that really is up to you. It's really up to the type of people that you surround yourself with in regards to your craft. In a lot of training covens, which is one of the reasons why I have my coven, Awakened Soul Coven, come and join us. So why I have the coven, why I do the work that I do, is that if you are guided by someone, if you have a good mentor, they're going to teach you both the light side and the shadow side. You're going to do work that is bringing you up and work that is going to make you face your stuff. A lot of people hit a level in the craft and then they don't go any further because it does require hard work. But I don't feel as though spiritual bypassing is something you have to worry about for yourself if you're aware of it, if you're reflective and you're ready to do the work. If you see other people spiritually bypassing, don't worry about it. That's their stuff, not yours. Just don't take it on. Judy Lamb mentioned that she had just started her spiritual journey and wanted to know if there was any guidance that I would have for her. So I'm actually going to give this as general guidance that I have for absolutely anyone who's starting their spiritual journey. Slow down, take one thing at a time, and try not to get too overwhelmed. I know at the beginning, all you want to do is experience all the things, get all the pretty stuff, watch all the videos, buy all the decks, and really get all the books, all that kind of stuff, and be really involved. I did the same thing, and it took me a while to realize that my spiritual journey is not about a destination. It is about my entire life. This is not about you getting to stage 1 or level 2. You're going to change, you're going to grow, you're going to evolve. So allow it to be something that is integrated into your everyday life, and allow it to take time. I wish I'd slowed down a little bit in the beginning, and I remember now, doing this now 20 plus years later, that it's every day for me. Allow yourself to evolve, allow your path to unfold, and remember, it's not about a destination, it is actually the journey. Thank you to everybody who sent through questions. I know I didn't get to all of them, but if you enjoyed this video and would like another one, let me know. Make sure, if you haven't already, you subscribe to my channel, hit that bell for notifications when I post new videos every week, and join the Bumblebee family.